After spending a week drawing 16 by 16 pixel characters, it's time to progress to 32 by 32 pixels. So, I'm traveling to the Pixel Pagoda to train with the Pixel Priest. Knowing he's a reclusive being indeed, I don't know what to expect or if I'll be deemed worthy of his instruction. So I climb the many flights of narrow stairs and find him deep in meditation. Nervous, I bow before him and humbly ask if he will teach me the secrets of his craft. He turns from his meditation and says, "I've long been waiting for the Afroed one. You will begin your training immediately." The first thing I do is redraw some of my 16 by 16 characters in 32 by 32. So here I'm working on Taj, the mage. I really don't know what his silhouette will look like at this size, so I just kind of experiment with some different shapes. I think I have an idea of what his hat and beard will look like, but until I just put something down, I'm never quite sure. So I just keep adding and deleting pixels until they start to become something recognizable. I like the idea of him having large Jafar-type shoulder pads, so I add them on. Then I stumble on a hat shape that looks more like a beanie than a traditional wizard hat, and I'm all about it. I'm also thinking that Taj is a non-traditional wizard, like a time mage or something. Now I'm gonna put a flame on his scepter and an eye on his hat. And here I'm just working out the accents on his robes. And last, I'm trying out a black outline. Now I'm redrawing Thad. I start with the helmet because I know it's what makes him recognizable. It takes a little while to decide how round to make his head and how wide to make that piece that covers his nose. Now for the shield, I have a few more pixels to work with, so I want to try to define the shape of a dragon, or it could be a phoenix, a bit more. I also have room to give the shield a border. Next, I'm moving on to his body. I want him to have large metal boots, so I start trying some different shapes out. I'm not sure where his hands will be positioned, but it makes sense that one of them will be sticking out from behind the shield, and the other will be holding a sword in front of him. I start with a very slanted sword, but I decide to have it mostly sit upright so you can tell what it is better. Now I'm just refining a few things. I want to give his helmet and armor some detail, so I add some lighter pixels to imply ridges and some chain in his mail. One thing that I've learned is that there's more room to devote to the eyes at this size, so I've been drawing at least 4 pixels per eye and giving the eyes some whites. I've also started putting an eyelid or brow above the eyes. At this size, I think Tiff looks pretty similar to her 16 by 16 sprite, but I'm able to add a few more details like making her shoes look like cowboy boots and adding some buttons to her overalls, as well as a red stripe to the cuffs of her shirt and pants. I think this makes her look like a cowgirl, so I'm just gonna lean into that. It's Trudy time now. My sweet old granny. I'm starting with her sandals because I think it's funny to have them prominently sticking out from under her dress. For whatever reason, I'm deciding to make her head pretty huge. I think it's because I want her chin to be very prominent. Her face and hair are pretty similar to the smaller version, except I can now add a little more poof to her fro. I also want her arms to look really frail, so I'm making them just 1 pixel thick. Now I'm adding some wrinkles to her dress and texture to her hair. I think I want her to have a cane in her other hand to stabilize her, and I'm experimenting with some different mouth shapes here. I like the idea of her missing a couple teeth. Lastly, I'm going to refine a few things and add an outline. On to my man Theo. Honestly, his head and glasses are pretty much the same as in 16 by 16. I do manage to give him a nose and a bit more of a neck though. When drawing his suit, I want to make his shoulders more prominent and his legs a bit longer. And now I'm defining his arm and cuff so his hands just aren't floating in midair in front of him. Next, I'm giving him some lapels and a crease in his pants to fancy him up. And now I'm finishing him off with an outline. For the next 5 drawings, I'm going to create new characters. I'll start by drawing a person who uses a wheelchair. I wasn't sure how to start with it, so I found a reference to help with the perspective and silhouette. The first thing I'm doing is trying to find a nice wheel shape. I want the spokes to be visible so that if the wheels are ever animated, they can spin and make it look like the wheel is turning. Now I'm working on the legs and the wheelchair frame to see how they'll sit between the wheels. With that done, it's a little more obvious where the torso will be, and I know the hands will be resting on the armrests. Next, I'll do a little refining. With everything else done, it's much easier to decide on the shape and size of the head. Also, knowing that the eyes will be 4 pixels wide with at least 2 pixels of space between them helps in narrowing down the decisions. And now I'm just making a few adjustments and adding some more detail. While working on the outline, I realize that I want Trey's shoes to be more visible, so I find a matching shoe and collar color that contrasts just well enough with the rest of his outfit. I worked at a movie theater for many years, so I thought it would be fun to draw an usher in a classic cinema uniform. I found a reference for what I was thinking. I'm starting with a basic outline of the face and torso. Then I'm going in and figuring out what the vest and tie will look like. Now to plop some legs and shoes under him. His torso feels a little wide at this point, but it's hard to tell until I draw the arms. To switch up the arm position, I'll have him putting his hand in his vest pocket. His other hand is going to be gesturing for a ticket. I'll add some detail to the vest by drawing some stripes on it, and I'm giving him a classic usher hat with a gold stripe to match his buttons. Lastly, I'm just doing a little bit more refining. Here is the head of Tori. It actually took me forever to get the strands of hair sticking out from her head just right. I want her to be edgy and athletic, so I'm keeping the sides of her hair short and giving her a bright tracksuit. When drawing her legs, I'm experimenting with the shape that goes down to just 1 pixel, so that they aren't just 2 straight sticks. Now to add some arms and hands. I tried to give her arms a slightly different pose. As you can see, it takes me a while to get it just right. Lastly, I'm adding a letter detail to her jacket and giving her a wry smile because she knows she's got everyone else beat. Next, I want to draw another character class with a distinct uniform, so I'm going to draw a police officer. I'm starting with his head and hat because the hat is a clear indicator of his profession. I'm not completely sure about the shape of the hat at this point, but I'm trying to keep it slightly slanted across his forehead. I'm keeping his head shape pretty blocky, and I'm giving him a beard. Here, I'm trying to get the shape of his body right. Cops of course have a belt with a buckle and tools and a badge on their chest. Troy doesn't carry a gun, but he does have pepper spray. Next, I'm doing some refining, and I'm thinking a pair of handcuffs would be cool. Lastly, he's getting an outline too. For my last character, I'm drawing a swashbuckling pirate. I'm starting out with his legs because you know pirates gotta have a wooden leg and a nice boot. Also, pirates always have big beards, so I tacked one of them on him. Here, I'm giving him a pirate hat adorned with a skull, which there isn't quite enough room for, so I'm shortening him a bit to make some room. I'm playing around with the color scheme a bit here and trying to find some colors that contrast enough with each other and also look like a pirate. I'm drawing on some gold trim so he looks like he's a successful buccaneer. Now I'm taking his eyes down to 1 pixel in height so it looks like he's leering at ya. And I'm adding a fancy feather on his hat and an eye patch. I wasn't really happy with him having completely straight legs, so I'm going to shift his weight to his left leg and give the peg leg a bit of a slant. Excellent! All 10 of my 32 by 32 characters are finished. After my week of intense training, the Pixel Priest calls me to his study. He says to me, "My son, your skills have improved dramatically. You are now ready to show your talents to the world. Here, take this trophy." Honored, I express my gratitude to the Pixel Priest and begin my journey home. And as I make my way beneath the stars, I know in my heart that now I'm a true artist.